Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the conversation on using music to promote healing for individuals and families affected by war. While I can't see you, I'm going to assume that many of you are accomplished professionals with clearly defined roles, training, and core competencies. This is important because music, like medicine, must be used responsibly, especially when working with vulnerable populations. Before we even begin to talk about using music or sound, here's some key questions to consider when meeting someone affected by war. Has the person or family had a full medical and psychological assessment? What are their most urgent needs? Are you or they equipped with resources and professional support to address those needs? Are basic needs like medical treatment, food, clothing, and housing already met? And can you communicate in a language you both understand? Only when these essential needs are addressed can we begin to explore how music might play a supportive role in healing. Okay, let's try something. I'm going to play a sound, and I'd like to ask yourself what it reminds you of. How about this one? I don't know whether you recognize this instrument, but there's some rattles on the bottom. See if I can play it backwards. It's a challenge. Let's try that again. Maybe another sound. That's an mbira. Mbira. Okay, third one. Some people react to that last sound like it's an explosion. Each of us responds differently. You might recall a specific place, a ritual, a funny story, a feeling of calm, or the sound might mean nothing to you at all. Notice, though, how quickly your associations arise. It's immediate, it's emotional, and it's very personal to you and your experience. We all use music in daily life during workouts, commuting, cooking, or just relaxing. It helps us to regulate our moods, enhance our focus, and lift our spirits. What else do we notice? Music we like works best. We need different music and tempos for different activities. And music can also distract us from pain or fatigue. Our preferences change depending on our mood, the time of day, or what our emotional needs are. So let's say on a particular sleepy day, you might need lively music to wake up, and then something you associate with calm as you prepare to sleep. What works for you that day may be completely different than what works for your neighbor. And it follows that what helps one person relax might trigger painful memories for someone else. Making that same point, when I was a violist with the Pittsburgh Symphony, I sometimes wanted anything but classical music after I left rehearsals. Maybe I'd pick vocal music, maybe folk songs, but most likely I'd choose absolute silence after sitting in the middle of an orchestra all day. So getting back to what the best music for war-affected individuals is, the answer is there is no universal playlist. What works for each of us at a given time is highly individual. There is no universal playlist. That brings us to the heart of the matter. Just as we wouldn't ask a violist to perform brain surgery, we shouldn't expect a professional musician to know how to use music to safely support trauma recovery. It's humbling but necessary to acknowledge that even with the training I had on multiple instruments, on viola, violin, djembe, and tabla, I'm not qualified to create personalized music care plans. I may not know someone's musical traditions, cultural context, or how to interpret nonverbal cues. And I don't have clinical training in trauma response, psychology, or how to avoid re-traumatization. That's why board-certified music therapists are the most appropriate professionals to do this work. A licensed board-certified music therapist is trained in music interventions for mental, emotional, and physical health, working with interdisciplinary teams, reading cues, and adjusting in real time, ensuring safety and cultural relevance, and designing individualized, person-centered care. Ideally, they'll also share a cultural and linguistic background with the individuals they're supporting. Okay, now for some stories. I'd like to tell you about a shelter for unaccompanied minors I visited. These boys, aged 10 to 17, had been through so much: displacement, family separation, and a great deal of uncertainty. While they did receive support from counselors and healthcare professionals, music programming was still in development. I was asked to explore what kind of live interactive music might be safe and supporting. I had already completed 90 hours of required training just to be in the same space where they were staying. When I arrived, I brought a variety of percussion instruments and set up a drum circle activity, not as therapy, but as observation. Some of the boys couldn't maintain or match a steady beat, even with cues like clapping or marching. This, along with their vulnerable emotional states, signaled to me that they needed a trained music therapist. This is because, even as a professional musician, I knew I could unintentionally cause harm by overstepping. I also felt emotionally overwhelmed myself by what I observed. I lacked the internal support systems that trained music therapists develop. So with the shelter's permission, my nonprofit funded a qualified music therapist to work with the children. I could then collaborate safely under the therapist's guidance. This is an example of using our skills within our scope of practice while honoring the expertise of others. There happened to be another way I could contribute musically at the shelter. A yoga instructor already experienced with working with these young people invited me to provide live music during her monthly yoga sessions. I kept a respectful distance while playing, observing the children's responses and adjusting the music accordingly. During a different yoga session for mothers of infants, staff held the babies while I played Spanish children's songs on the viola, songs the mothers and staff knew and loved from their own childhoods. That was a very moving experience. This was possible because I had gathered dozens of Central and South American children's songs during my training in consultation with teachers and staff. Here I wasn't leading, I was supporting the event musically and respectfully. It was meaningful for everybody who participated. Now let me share another setting, a 5-week Alliance for Refugee Youth Support and Education, that's ARISE, summer program on a university campus. Here, children lived at home with their families and attended public school during the year. Their lives were much more stable. I assisted in a beginner guitar class. 3 Afghan girls each selected a meaningful song in their own language. I was able to find and print out the sheet music so they could learn to read and play their own chosen song on guitar, which was a great motivator. In the same class, a Spanish-speaking boy loved exploring sound colors on the guitar. I introduced expressive techniques within my skill set, how to change tone by plucking or strumming in different places closer and further from the bridge, and how to create mood through dynamics and pitch. Again, this was providing music guidance within my scope of practice, not therapy, but skill building and creative support. Outside, during recreation time, we hosted a weekly open drum circle with instruments from many cultures. A talented Cuban percussionist led the group and I assisted. I provided Indian tabla, which had positive associations with some of the Afghan students, especially the girls, who played with great enthusiasm. These stories illustrate the potential of music to soothe, energize, and connect, but also highlight the necessity of training, supervision, and partnership. Even with the best of intentions, musicians working alone may misread cues, trigger trauma, or neglect important safety boundaries. But in collaboration with trained professionals, especially music therapists, we can offer rich, resonant, and safe experiences that support healing and recovery. In closing, I want to thank you for your commitment to exploring this work with music and care. Whether you are a therapist, educator, aid worker, or musician, each of you has a role to play. Let's respect one another's training and limitations, collaborate with intention, and prioritize the well-being of those we aim to support. I look forward to continuing this important discussion with you at the conference. Thank you.